Hey everyone, this is Leanne from Of Love and Shiplap and the founder of Sublimation Graphics and Tutorials here on Facebook. If you're joining us on YouTube, please be sure to come join our Facebook group where all of our videos air live before they're added to our YouTube channel unedited. And of course, if you're catching us live on Facebook, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Those links are in the video description depending on where you're watching. Today's demo is going to be on how to sublimate a 15-ounce coffee mug using a mug press. We're going to be using the red interior with the red handle version. These come in a variety of colors. This mug is courtesy of Sublimation 101, and that link is in the video description. They do offer an assortment of colors as well as mugs that they have different I love you mugs in different languages filled on the inside. I believe they have a happy birthday one on that's printed on the inside as well. So you've got a few different options to choose from. Now, one of the things I like about Sublimation 101 is that you can purchase drinkware by the piece. Their website often only advertises by the case, but if you call them directly, there is the option to purchase some of the items by piece. And I think that's just a great benefit because we know that so many places don't give that option. And sometimes you don't want a whole case. You don't know how well something will sell or even if you'll like how it looks when you get it. So because we're using a mug press, we're going to always face some limitations in terms of doing a full wrap design. Now, a lot of people do really like to do that full bleed all the way around. And when you're doing a mug that has a colored handle, it's really difficult to get it all the way up to this edge and even try and print on the handle. If you're using a convection oven or a 3D vacuum press with either shrink wrap or a silicone wrap, you have a much better chance of being able to print underneath the handle and up along these little edges and whatnot. I personally prefer to use a mug press because I really like the consistency that I get with it. And that's, just one of those things that's a personal preference. I'm using my iColor multi-mug press today, which I'll be showing you guys in just a minute. Anytime you're doing a 15-ounce coffee mug, you want to check it before you do any type of sizing and printing your designs. Now, the reason why is because you can purchase 15-ounce coffee mugs from different companies and they are not all the same. I learned this the hard way when I had printed a bunch of designs and then ordered some last-minute mugs off of Amazon. And although they sublimated fine, they were actually a half-inch smaller in the circumference, which made a big problem with my design. And I actually ended up wasting like 6 coffee mugs because the design did not match up the same. And then I kept having issues with the pressure because it was smaller. So the pressure in my mug press didn't align as well either. So just a cautionary tale for you guys. Another important part of using a mug press is that some mug presses have a separate 15-ounce attachment and some it's an 11-ounce to 15-ounce all-in-one. So mine is an 11-ounce to 15-ounce all-in-one. And I have noticed that with this, it covers about half an inch less than when I had a mug press that just did 15-ounce. That mug press didn't last very long. So I'm definitely happier to have a better quality one. But you want to go ahead and put your mug in the press and you're going to measure it and see how much space so that you can make sure that your design is appropriately spaced on your mug so that you do get a full print, okay? Now, today's design is from Debbie Does Design Co. She quickly put together just a hot cocoa bomb themed mug for me designed for me for Valentine's Day that I thought would be perfect on this mug. Now, if you missed our hot cocoa bomb demo that we just did, just go ahead and replay that or catch it on our YouTube channel. It's nothing fancy, but the idea was just to show you how to create the hot cocoa bombs so that you could work on that and then you could create a perfect little gift set that's great for the holidays. With Valentine's Day coming up, this is a great last minute item to push, but also you might want to consider doing this when winter rolls around again. And I don't know, maybe there's even some room to do them for Easter. I guess it'll depend on where you live and how cold it is and whatnot. So the first thing that we'll do is get our measurements and make sure that this fits in our press accordingly. And then we'll go ahead and size our design in Affinity Designer and print it off. And you'll see that this is a pretty quick process. I personally love coffee mugs because they are so quick and easy to do. And I love that places like Sublimation 101 have just a huge variety of mugs that you can choose from. And not only just 15-ounce or 11-ounce, but they also have 2 different size of latte shaped mugs, which I'm excited we'll be doing demos on those in the future as well. So let's go ahead and turn this around and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so as I mentioned, the first thing that you always want to do is check how your mug fits within your mug press and the heating element that you have. Now, some mug presses are set up to have two separate attachments for 11 ounce and 15 ounce. Mine is a universal, which means that I am going to have to be conscious of where my heating element falls on my mug, so that I don't end up not covering my design when it's in place. So go ahead. It's a little too tight. We're going to loosen it all the way up. There we go. Make sure it's in there good. Okay. So we've got our mug press adjusted, and we can tell if I get the handle centered there. If I was going to do a full wrap design, I would need to measure this space right here and then make sure to deduct that from my design, because I would not be able to get an adequate press in that area. So we'll go ahead and turn our press on while we get our other measurements. I'm using the iColor multi-mug press. I have found that 380 degrees for 180 seconds is the sweet spot. If you're using a convection oven, you're going to want to do your mug at 400 degrees for 12 minutes. Now keep in mind that convection mugs and mug presses and even vacuum presses can really vary, and it's totally up to you to try out different times and temperatures and find that sweet spot that's just right. So the next thing we want to do is determine the size of our design. So we're going to need the height of our mug, but we want to make sure we're looking above this bevel. So we only have from that line all the way up. So if you look right there, we've got 4 1/4 inches. And then anytime you're putting a design, even if you're doing full bleed, if there's a main design like we're using today, you want to have it roughly 1 inch from the handle. So then to determine the size that you want your design, I usually just hold it there against the handle and visualize. So if we visualize this, our design is going to start right about here where my thumbnail is. So we really don't want our design to be any more than 2.5 inches wide. Now 2.5 inches wide, if you're looking straight forward on this mug, is going to be the perfect width. So we're going to make sure that we set that accordingly. And same thing in terms of the height. So even though we have 4 1/4 inches, unless you're doing full bleed, you want to consider bringing in your design so it's about 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch from the top and bottom. It'll always kind of depend on the design for you to determine that. So there's no really set rule when it comes to this. You just want to use good visuals because you want to make sure that how your design looks when it's printed looks professional, looks like something someone would have gotten from the store. So we've got 4 1/4 inches tall. We'll probably aim for 3.5 to 3.75 inches for the height of our design, and then no more than 2.5 inches wide. And we're actually going to print both sides. No reason not to. So let's hop on over to Affinity Designer and we'll get that set up. So we're going to go ahead and set up our design to print based on the measurements that we just got. We know that the height of our design cannot extend 4.25 inches, and that would be edge to edge. We want this to have a professional look, and a professional printed item would not be oversized for the type of design that we're doing today. Again, we're not doing a full bleed design. We're just doing a simple design that's going to fit on either side of our mug. So with that in mind, I usually try and accommodate that by deducting anywhere between a full inch, as in 1/2 inch at top and 1/2 inch at bottom, or 1/4 inch at top and 1/4 inch at bottom. I let the definer be the width. So we determined that the width of our design should be no bigger than 2.5 inches. So we'll go ahead and hit File and then New to start a new document. Our design should fit perfectly fine on a letter size page, so we can choose to create that. You want to make sure that your color format is RGB/8 and that you have a transparent background check. You can then import your graphic by clicking on the Place Image tool or going to File and then Place. As I mentioned, I'm using a design from Debbie Does Design Co. That link is in the video description. We'll go ahead and click and drag to bring it in. And now I'm just going to click on my transform panel, make sure that that aspect ratio is locked. That's what those little brackets mean right there. And I'm going to adjust the width to 2.5 inches. As you can see, our height is going to be just under 3.5 inches, which is probably as wide as I would want it to be, or as tall as I would want it to be anyways. And I think that this will work best with the proportions. The 2.5 inch width is really perfect for the mug that we're doing. And we don't want to go over that because it's going to make it difficult to have it look centered and look good when you're looking at your coffee mug. Now I'm going to do this on both sides. Anytime I'm doing a single design on both sides of a mug, I personally prefer to print them separately or not in a wrap. Now, if you're doing a full bleed design all the way around, of course you want to wrap. That's what's most practical. But I find that when you're doing two single designs, using a wrap template, it's very easy to not have it lined up perfectly on both sides. And then you end up spending so much extra time trying to keep manipulating your wrap so that it fits perfectly. And the thing is about a coffee mug is that you can be off by 1/8 of an inch on one side and it's going to be a real problem on the opposite side. So whenever I'm doing single designs, I just prefer to cut them and have them each side instead of doing them in a wrap. So that's what we're going to do today. It allows you to make sure that it's more accurate and it's a lot faster when you're trying to tape it on. Now, when you're doing a full bleed, it's a little different because you've got a little bit more wiggle room. And typically full bleed designs are not singular designs like this on either side. Typically they're designed to wrap. So it's not a big deal if you're 1/8 of an inch off in the placement of things because it's not going to be as noticeable. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this because I think I can fit at least 2 across. And then we'll right click and duplicate. Yep, we got 2 right there. So I'm just going to click and drag to select them. I don't want to waste any paper. So I'm going to duplicate this again. And I could probably fit at least 1 more on there. Oop. That was my mistake. I undid the moving. And then we'll just grab that other one that I just duplicated and move that one as well. Okay, just like that, we are ready to print, and we'll do this by going to File and then Print. We're going to choose our Workforce 7710 from our printer options. You will select on Properties, and then you'll go ahead and set whatever print settings that you use for your ink. Keep in mind that mine are going to be different from yours. It always depends on your ink, your printer, the paper type. There's a lot of variables. Go with what you know your settings are. I have mine set in a preset. The main thing you want to make sure is just that you have mirror image checked. So as long as you've got that checked and you use the appropriate settings, you're ready to go. Just hit OK and hit OK, and your document will send to print. All right, so let's have a look at everything that we're going to need. We're going to need some heat tape, some heat gloves. We've got our transfer that we just printed, our mug press, and then you have 2 options once you're done pressing. The first is that you can choose to just leave it with your transfer still on and let it cool completely in front of a fan. You want it to cool quickly because otherwise your colors will end up bleeding. Or if you're like me, you can just dip it in some lukewarm water. Now, there are people who are completely against using the water dip method. The reason why is because if your water is not at the appropriate temperature, you can end up with what's called microfractures in your ceramic. Now, the temperature difference does have to be pretty dramatic. If your water is basically the equivalent of baby bath water, then it's going to be the perfect temperature for you to dip your mug in. Oh, you don't want it to be cold because if you take any type of hot drinkware and put it into something that's too cold, it is going to break. The idea that doing this method somehow deteriorates your mug is a lie. It literally defies science. If you are doing it correctly, as I said, with some lukewarm water, you're not going to have any problems. I have mugs that have been washed in the dishwasher 100 million times. well, you know, they've been washing the dishwasher weekly for 2 years that I have done the dip method, never had a problem. I sell a lot of coffee mugs in bulk, never had a customer come back and tell me that there was something wrong with their coffee mug or that it broke because they used it. So keep in mind that there's a lot of science in the world of sublimation, and science is what we listen to, not necessarily just everyone's random opinions. Find what method works for you and go with it. Typically I used a 5-gallon bucket, but it was going to be a little difficult for you guys to see it. So I'm doing this one today. So I'm just going to go ahead and move my mug press back so I can trim the transfer. And like I said, I'm going to do one on each side. Now, anytime if you're not using mug paper, you always want to double check the edge of your paper to make sure you don't have any ink marks that might have picked up from your printer. And then of course, always double check your transfer as well. This is just so you don't end up with a mug that you can't use. Those phantom ink lines, they are no joke. Next, I'm going to just use my heat glove to be able to stabilize my mug here. I've seen some pretty cool contraptions lately. People kind of using sort of like a PVC harness to be able to set their designs. And I actually think that's kind of a fun idea. Okay, so you can eyeball it. That's how I always do it. The main thing is making sure that your text is straight. And then because we'll be doing 2, we definitely want to make sure that we're doing them equivalently. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So I'm going to stick a piece of tape at the top and then another piece of tape at the bottom. Or sorry, I'm going to tape the sides. This top piece was just to hold it. Well, you can leave the top piece too. The sides is what you want to focus on. And you're just going to give it a good look. Make sure it looks centered, which this one does, so that is good. And a little trick that I didn't think to do, but you can actually create a box in your design program that's the 4 1/4 inches tall and center your design in it, and then trim your paper to those guides, and then that way you can just line it up right with the top instead of having to, you know, guess to make sure it's 100% straight. Okay. That looks good as well. So again, I'm just going to tape my sides. I'm going to double check that design. You can see it. Make sure, oh, it looks like we actually do need to move over just a little bit. So we'll just peel it up. So this is exactly why I don't like doing the wrap ones, because if you are just like, really, it only takes about 1/8 of an inch. If you're about 1/8 of an inch off, you can throw off your entire design on the other side. Okay. And you can measure, I'm using my thumb as a measurement. That's what I'm doing right now to make sure that the text is in the same spot. And pretty close. About as close as we're going to get. Okay, so now we look at our design. We look at it straight on. Now it looks straight and centered. Double check that other side, straight and centered. So we can go ahead and slide this into our mug press. We do want to use some blowout paper. I actually really like using parchment paper for mugs, but I do not have any today, so I'm using just my regular painter's masking paper. But parchment paper I often use, I buy the sheets and wrap it in there. So you're just gonna kind of pull it in tight, slide this into the side of your mug press, either direction. Okay. Make sure you get nice and centered and hit our start button. Okay. Now we've got just about 3 minutes on our timer. So if you have questions about about mugs and stuff in general, go ahead and comment them below. Anytime you're putting in a mug press, you always good before you press to make sure that you did get it all the way underneath your heating elements so that there's no problems with your design. And once this is ready, like I said, we're going to dip it in the water and then we'll dry it off. I went ahead and printed off these hot cocoa bomb tags. I found these on Etsy, and you can find that link in the video description as well. I just picked them from a random shop. So I'm going to go ahead and cut one of those out so we can use this with our hot cocoa bomb. Now, if you're really ambitious, you can always just load something like this into the Silhouette or Cricut and cut it out that way. I personally don't really like using paper products, like cardstock especially. I haven't really mastered how to not have it stuck to my mat afterwards. All right, we're about halfway through our timer. I'm going to cut one more. So I mentioned that this is the iColor multi-mug press. I just did my first demo with this recently, but I have had it for a few months. I really like this mug press. It has the option to have 4 different attachments. The one that's currently in is the 11 to 15 ounce attachment, which works great for both sides mugs. And I did Scotch glasses with it. I really am very happy with that. And then there is the 6 ounce latte attachment, which is made for shot glasses, which I do have some of those to demo as well. And then there is a 12 ounce and a 17 ounce latte attachment as well. And those work for small latte coffee mugs and then also pint glasses. So I definitely have some more tutorials on drinkware that we'll be doing. I think that the versatility of this mug press is great, and the price point is really great too. It is $4.50 with all of the attachments, and that's actually over $200 cheaper than similar good quality mugs. So got a little hot cocoa bomb tag. All right, we are just about ready to pull this out. I'm going to get my heat glove on because it will be hot. And we got just about 10 more seconds here. Okay. All right, we're going to take it out, and then we're just going to dip it slowly. Let it get in there, let it cool off completely. All right. You only need to dip it for a few seconds. It really does not take long. But then we'll go ahead and peel off our design. And like I said, this is one method. A lot of people like to put it in front of a fan. You can do that also. Play around and do what works for you. Normally I'm doing volume mugs, so dipping it is definitely a lot less work in my opinion, and then they're ready. I don't have to wait for them to cool. I have them ready so that I can start, start boxing them while other mugs are being done. Okay, let me dry this off. All right. There is our mug. It looks fantastic. Our design looks good. Yeah, I'm definitely excited for this one. Okay, so now the last thing that you want to do is you've got your hot cocoa bomb. You're just going to stuff this with paper. I'm going to use tissue paper because, of course, that looks nicer. I'm going to wad up some tissue paper, kind of stuff it down in there because this is going to give your hot cocoa bomb something to sit on top of. And I just wrap mine with plastic wrap. You can always get, one of those nice nice, you know, the food bags, the treat bags. Okay. And then you would either wrap this with cellophane and stick your little tag in it, or you can attach your tag to the side. So it looks like I forgot to get a hole punch, but this was just to show you the idea. So let me kind of lower you guys so you can get a straight on view of this. All right. And just like that, you've got a great little gift set that's perfect for Valentine's Day and also perfect for Christmas. I'm sure there will be other uses for hot cocoa bombs as well. So once again, this mug was from Sublimation 101. If you didn't catch our demo, just quick and easy on how to make the hot cocoa bombs, go check that out. Our design today is from Debbie Does Design Co. And then I did link the link for the hot cocoa bomb instructions as well, which you can, again, you can stick it in the mug. If you wrap this with cellophane so that it is all nice and secure, you can also hole punch that and tag it on as well. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Other than that, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening.